Being such a good boy. Hey guys, it's Cam. This here big pony is Winston. He's getting ready to have his first go home session today. So he's just chilling on place like a good boy, getting ready. And I've got about 30 minutes available for Fix It Friday today. Only one question proactively submitted that I have seen anyway. And so I will tackle that one. And then if anybody has anything they would like me to address, and you're watching back on the replay, feel free to submit those questions to April at hope2canine.com, and then I will tackle them on the next Fix It Friday Q&A show. All right. So jump on in. I'll wait just a second more before I start chatting to the question that was sent over by Jessica. And Winston's just practicing his little Zen meditation state here before his family comes in today for his first go home. Let me flip you guys around, set you down. Dirt, dirt, dirt. That ought to do it. And if you've got questions you'd like me to tackle during the live, pop them in the comments, all right? But if you're watching the replay back, you should send your questions over email. You can also always go to our website, hope2canine.com, and send a contact form with your submission. But the easiest, fastest way is April at hope2canine.com. And she will compile those for me, as she always does, right before I jump online the day before. So the one question that I had come over my email that was a prior submission, and give me a comment, guys, to make sure that I know you can hear the audio okay and that you are here and the stream isn't glitchy and all that good stuff. Thank you, April. There she is to save the day. The question that I received, I sort of touched on already in our Raising a Rockstar group because it's a member there. And, but evidently there's more that they're wondering about. So I'm going to speak to this topic of chicken style feeding. This is a water cooler, by the way, in case you guys don't know. I think it's pretty cool, the Berkey. Let me scoot you back and then maybe I can see your comments better over moi. All right, so it has to do with chicken style feeding, and Jessica's got a Great Dane puppy, and then she has another female dog that is, in comparison, much smaller, but I would call her a medium-sized dog. And more, definitely more alpha, but not intensely so. And this puppy's really strong, strong-willed, strong, confident, strong, excitement level, and just a giant breed, right? A Great Dane like Winston. So, good boy. So this puppy is kind of he's coming in on this family setup and dynamic with a dog, Luna, who's already trained. She knows all her stuff. She's worked through a lot of separation anxiety. She has a lot of control and training on her. But we really want to free her up in order to influence the puppy in an effective way and teach him that not all dogs love you. Not all dogs are going to want to play with you all the time. Things that are really valuable about having a pack of dogs raising a puppy, or at least an older dog helping raise a puppy, because that's the reality of that puppy's life long term, right? That even though they may make friends with their housemate dogs and they may want to play all the time and have a great relationship with the dogs in their immediate circle, they'll meet dogs out in the world that want nothing to do with them. And if they haven't learned, like children, to respect those boundaries or to be okay in their own skin with rejection, then you'll have problems, social issues later on. You'll have a dog that's too pushy. You'll potentially have a dog that starts fights, that doesn't take that correction or boundary from another dog who's saying, hey, this is my bubble, my personal bubble. And it can turn into something you don't want. So when we talk about chicken style feeding, for anybody who's just totally coming into this blind and not familiar, it literally is the way you feed chickens, right? And old school, without, what's the word I'm looking for? Commercial farming, where we have our animals boxed up in terribly tight quarters and eating out of troughs right side by side, chickens in cages. A chicken in its natural, best case scenario, free range environment would have, the opportunity to hunt for their seed and grain or whatever it is, eating bugs and things. They're hunting and pecking, right? And so when we're chicken style feeding dogs, we're throwing the food. Most of you feed kibble, but there are ways to do this with fresh and raw food as well, or as a supplement. You can do this, as a supplement to fresh and raw feeding. So if we're talking about kibble, it's the easiest picture for me to paint though, and it's where instead of taking that bowl of food and setting it down and having your dog hork it all in one sitting, you're tossing that food and spreading that food, and now you're engaging that dog's hunt drive, and they're using their nose, they're hunting and seeking, they're working. It's mentally far more challenging and much more satisfying to a dog, a canine with drive. And each and every kibble now has a tenfold more value in how it is satisfying the dog, and encouraging them to earn and work for that food. If we do that in a pack dynamic, we're again simulating a little bit more that primal and instinctual natural dynamic of the pack needing to hunt and work together and then share the food. And so there are trainers who've been doing this far longer than I have, in heavy duty, intense rehab programs with the intention of helping dogs who have resource guarding issues who are not good. Hang on a second, guys. I apologize. I forgot to turn off all my little banner doodads. So they've been using this strategy for a long time to help specifically to deal with dogs who have resource guarding or aggression and possession issues over food specifically, or toys or whatever. It doesn't really matter why the dog has resource guarding issues. It could be that they legitimately had to fight for food when they were a puppy. Humans really like to attach to an emotional story. So a lot of times dog owners that don't know anything about the past of the dog will see a puppy who's possessive or overly excited when they come into food, and they'll make assumptions and place a story onto that dog, that he must have not ever gotten enough food or must have been starving out there in Baja before the rescue picked him up. You guys, it can be literally nothing to do with supply and demand. It can be simply the personality and the temperament of the dog. Because we see this behavior, and it was a good example in the subscription group, Raising a Rockstar group, where we have someone who's a breeder, and posted, video of the puppies in the breeding program having one puppy that's being a dick and resource guarding stuff, amongst, above and beyond the others in the puppy pack. All right. These are like 8-week-old puppies. So these are dogs that we know the origin, we know the genetics, we know what they've been eating, we know they're getting plenty of food, we know that they're healthy, they're vaccinated, all these things that should happen that have, no bearing on a dog being desperate or sad or, needing rescue, right? And it's just personality and temperament. You have a stronger dog, you have a dog with a stronger, more dominant opinion or personality. They fucking want more, and they're going to treat the others, like crap and tell them to bugger off and let them have it. So be careful about assigning a story when it comes to resource guarding. Be careful about getting attached to a narrative that there must be a reason why the dog is doing this, that it's starving or it's fearful or it's uncomfortable and stressed because it's afraid you might take the food away or the other dog is scaring it. Knock that stuff off, because that is only going to contribute negatively to increasing the behavioral issue in a way you don't want, or certainly not resolving it in the way that you don't want. Okay. It's my opinion that puppies that show resource guarding issues, ideally, you get an older dog or two to teach them a lesson as quick as possible and show them that that's not acceptable behavior. It doesn't work, and that they'll get their booty kicked, if they try that nonsense, and just shut it down at that stage of development where they're the most malleable and you have the least likely chance that it will continue. I've posted content, in the Raising a Rockstar group 6 months ago, 5 months ago, bringing home my Glen puppy and immediately allowing her, feeding my boxer dog, who's 2 at the time, and allowing her to run up and go, "What do you have in there? Maybe I want it." And he gave her a good, "Mah, go away." Mine, leave me alone, and she's never tried it again. It was like, got it, no problem. Now she understands and respects the smallest little lip curl from another dog or a little growl from another dog. Sometimes it's just posturing and body language from another adult dog saying, this is my ball, this is my stick, this is my bowl, this is my chew, whatever it is. She's got it. She's like, clear. You don't mess around when someone tells you they're not sharing with you right now, right? Um, so be really careful about assigning a narrative and just teach your dogs, teach your puppies to be respectful and polite, period. That is how you will keep them safe. Okay. You will not keep them safe if you enable them, if you entitle them, if you dance around anxiously, applying some emotional narrative as to why they're acting this way. Shut it down if you don't want to see it continue in the adult dog. And other dogs are the most effective, in my opinion, at teaching this. So, chicken style feeding, back to the point. Chicken style feeding comes into play when we want to teach dogs to work together and that there's enough to go around. Because if you think about it, in the most basic sense, when we scatter that food all over our yard, hopefully in a large, grassy area where it's organic and you haven't sprayed weed killer, but it could be a patio, it could be a small turf. It doesn't matter what you have to work with, use what you've got. When we scatter that food though around in a large area, or we could even put it on multiple cookie sheets throughout a house. Let's say you're really limited and you're like, Cam, I don't live in a place where I've got lots of yard and my dogs can have that, and I'm worried about this and I'm worried about that, and it rains, whatever. You can always, always, always find a way around this. You can just get creative, okay? So when we spread that stuff around though, and we have the dog simultaneously hunting and seeking, we're mimicking that sort of core primal instinctual need to work for their food, to find their food, to slow them down in their eating process. But then if it's outside and we can do it on a trail or in, as I said, a yard, green space, soil where, it's healthy, it's safe, you don't have spray, you're not spraying in the area, it's not toxic, they're actually getting really beneficial bacteria. They're getting minerals and other enzymes and things that they wouldn't have otherwise experienced in a very sterile dynamic of you take a kibble out of a bag and put it in a bowl and serve it to your dog. Okay. So there's a lot of benefit here. But from a behavioral standpoint, above all else, we have a dog that's learning that they don't just need to feel a certain way emotionally and anxiously about consuming that food super fast. And this is where it comes from, and that's it. We don't build the same compulsions. Okay. If you think about your puppy very quickly, let alone your adult dog, your puppy very quickly learns the sound of the bowl, right? If you pick up that metal bowl and set it on the counter, that ting sound, right? What does your dog do? Are they at attention? Do they come running? Do they know where to go because you have a pattern and a habit of sending them somewhere to eat? Do they start whining? I know the dogs that I live with here in the other room, they start barking and whining immediately when they hear the bowls come out of the cupboard where she takes them out and prepares them. It's totally and completely patterned and habitual. And so these things are formed when we do the same thing over and over and over again, and the dog learns that association with that device, right? We want them to feel that excited when we get the leash and collar out, for example, because we want them to be, pumped and positive about putting tools on, that it means we're going to go do cool stuff together. We don't want them to be avoidant and shut down or upset, but we also don't want craziness and overexcitement and nonsense and, rude, pushy, dangerous behavior. Let me just fix this here. There we go. So my point here is when you chicken style feed, you create all this opportunity to slow the dog down, to avoid that obnoxious conditioning, to actually motivate the dog to work for their food, to get more, respect and value out of how you, what you represent with that and how you deliver it, to satisfy the brain, to slow the gut down, to benefit the gut with these other things that they consume if they're able to do so in an organic environment. And you get that sharing dynamic, right? Of the pack learning, we to work together. There's plenty to go around. This is a team activity. I feel positively when I eat with you. We curb that possession shit. So a lot of my knowledge of chicken style feeding comes from mentors who've been doing this a lot longer, who've been using it for very, particularly rehabilitation purposes to promote more of that calm and ease and sharing and cohesion in the pack dynamic. Jessica's question came up around this because she started to do it in order to get all those benefits, in order to blend a new dog with an old dog, and she had a scuffle between the dogs. And so I don't, of course, have the question in front of me in its entirety, but the gist of it was, and as I said, I've addressed some of this in the subscription group where she is a member. So I'm not going to, it's not all going to make a ton of sense per se in the complete picture of it for those of you that aren't in there with us. But, she said, basically, can you show me some examples of what this should look like and how far should I let it go with the dogs working it out? This idea of them working it out. And so, I thought about this question when it was presented to me yesterday, and I realized that number one, my answer is if you aren't comfortable, she was describing feeling nervous, unsure. I don't know that she said anxious, but I think nervous and concerned about having the dogs get into, legitimate fight. She had a little flashback to when her older dog had injured a puppy a long time ago, and just the reality that injuries can happen, right? So there's anxiety under there. There is stress there. Hey, there she is, Jessica. So you can now fill in the gaps. There is uncertainty there, and there's some trauma, essentially, right? When you've seen a dog fight, when you've dealt with injuries, when you've been attacked by another dog, it's very hard not to have some trauma there, to have some memory and patterning there that has you feeling like, gosh, I really don't want to go through that again. It's pretty damn stressful. So with that said, Jessica, the answer to your question is if you don't feel confident, if you don't feel clear about how far should you let it go, or what do you do if, something starts up, don't chicken style feed your pack. Don't do it with the dogs together. Do it with one dog at a time to give them all the individual benefits, but to prevent any situation wherein you aren't going to be equipped to show exactly what they need to know in that moment in order to avoid creating, more problems than benefits from this activity. So that's number one. My number one answer is if you don't feel comfortable, don't do it. Because honestly, it comes from experience. And you have to be somebody who is pretty calm, cool, and collected, who feels pretty assertive that they'll do whatever it takes to deal with whatever might come up, and that they can manage physically the dynamic of the dogs in front of them. You have to have that calm, assertive energy in the equation, or you could actually make the problem worse or produce produce an issue between the dogs. Okay. Unfortunately, when you ask for examples, no, I'm not going to be able to stage a dog fight during chicken style feeding in order to show you how far should we let it go. So I can't do that. It's impossible, and it isn't wise. It isn't productive. It's not beneficial. But it's also certainly, something that isn't still going to create the level of confidence and, assuredness that you need to have in order to make this a beneficial activity between multiple dogs. I think that's a little bit of the art of our work in this industry is that you have dog trainers, and many far better than me, who just simply have learned by making mistakes, to be honest, by, doing the work and handling a lot of dogs and experiencing when it works and when it doesn't. And what is too far is something that you learn over time by accidentally letting it go too long or not pushing the dog hard enough and avoiding situations where they need to be exposed more in a controlled environment. These are things that have just come with a lot of time, a lot of dogs, in my experience, and some intuition and instinct. Just an aspect of this that is the art, I think, of the work. And so, because of that, at least for me, I can't give you a specific formula. It is my personal belief in pretty much every area of dog training that while there are, general truths about what works and why dogs do what they do and how to resolve certain things, every situation, every dog is a little bit different. Every family, every dynamic, of how you put the picture together that's going to work best has to do with the environment, the energy of the humans in the equation, their own knowledge and skill and emotional condition, their psychology and their process, how they operate, what they default to, because dogs are such a product of their environment. They're so incredibly reflective of their environment. They are going to mirror back to you your frequency, your energy, your emotionality. If you are reactive, if you are confident and believable, if you are anxious and insecure. Really, truly, it's not a time to experiment when you're trying to grow a puppy up in the way that want them to turn out fantastic. Do the foundational things, do the most basic, consistent, known. These things are incredibly important. Crate training your dog, teaching your dog to respect and feel calm and comfortable on a leash and give you engagement over anything else in the environment. Manners, a respect of the relationship, basic things like not allowing jumping on you and pushing past you in the doorway and slowing that brain down in situations where they need to learn to have respect and reverence for people or the space you're inside your home versus the energy that you allow outside your home. These are the kinds of things that are really, really, really more important than being able to chicken style feed the whole pack. I think in the context of teaching your puppy to be respectful of the older dog and the resources, that might be more of the scenario of like how I did it with my puppy and my boxer, right? He's eating, she's curious, he corrects her. They can get into it a little bit, but she's going to learn real quick since I do it really early, right? She did. It's like, don't mess around. He's way bigger than you. He's way stronger than you. He's telling you off. Don't go there. Unfortunately, you got a Great Dane and your older dog is smaller than him, and that's not ideal. It definitely tips the scales too quickly for, where your older dog lacks confidence and sureness in her position and where she's starting already to backpedal and just go into avoidant mode because of this dog. You're going to have to be the one who shares the corrections with that puppy more than your dog does. But it would be okay for you to set up the same situation and correct your puppy on leash for approaching your other dog. Don't wait for a scuffle. Don't wait for a fight. Build a bubble around your older dog and teach that puppy he is not more powerful, he is not stronger, and he cannot overtake in those situations. I would avoid the dynamic of, feeding any other way where you're feeling nervous or anxious and unsure how to read the body language. Just don't do it. That's my general answer. Just don't do it. Chicken style, feed them individually, put one on place, let the other one go hunt around, then swap. That's a great way to build impulse control. You're getting a major bang for your buck in terms of, teaching the place command itself around a high value, exciting resource, teaching respect of allowing the one dog to have attention versus the other one. And you're still getting that hunting, seeking, working, slowing the dog down while they're eating dynamic that we're talking about previously. So hopefully this is helpful and kind of clarifies some things. I describe chicken style feeding a lot for my clients with puppies because, it's too easy to get in the habit of putting, 2 cups in a bowl over and over and over again and feeding your puppy out of it and getting zero value. You guys, one of the easiest, most no-brainer things to do when you have a puppy that is 8 weeks to 5-6 months at a minimum is to hand feed that puppy. Hand feed them by chicken style feeding, hand feed them by literally giving it to them from your hand for behaviors that you want, shaping and molding, lifting for a sit, holding it down and waiting for the puppy to flop down on their belly, and then opening your hand and giving them food. Teach them down, teach them sit, teach them come, pay them when they come to you. Teach them to follow your hand and lure into positions, or teach them to go hunt for this stuff if you want more independence, if you want more mental drain and stimulation, if you want a dog to do detection work or ratting or any of these other things long term. Find your little Amazon box collection, put that together from all your deliveries you've been getting. Put the kibble in 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 boxes throughout the living room. Have the puppy learn to go look inside the box and take the food out. This is the simplest stuff to do, but it makes it so much more valuable twice a day feeding your puppy if you're at least capitalizing on part of that time and part of that food to be something you engage them in an activity like this. All right. Um, any other questions about that? Feel free to drop them here, but we're definitely, confronting some things like this in the subscription group and in the Raising a Rockstar group, where we can follow a little bit more comprehensively dog examples, puppy examples, scenarios where this is not going perfectly smoothly or it's working really brilliantly, and it helps to see. I think that contrast. It helps to see lots of different examples of different types of dogs working this activity. I showed it with the little hound puppy recently, Bucky, and that's been a transformative thing for his family. Started a month and a half ago or so, month ago at least, doing chicken style feeding in their yard. They don't have a ton of space. They've had to get creative about how they use kind of little L-shaped yard that's concrete and grass. But they've done a really nice job of hiding, excuse me, I'm gonna yawn, hiding little containers of food, to avoid having food scattered out where the rats will be encouraged to come. So when the dog finds the container, he gets a little bit more of a payout, jackpot payout, but he has to find multiple, right? So it's definitely just lots of different options of ways that you can do that. Let me see your comment, Jessica. Doing it outside, I feel more confident. Definitely implement the place and switch. Yeah, it's so cool to see Luna look. She really details, your hardscaping nooks and crannies there, and it's just you can see how much more engagement the dog is getting out of that meal service when you do it in that way. And it may only take 10, 15 minutes for them to find everything, but it sure beats the 60 seconds it takes for them to inhale. So get creative, you guys. If you're raw feeding, you can do this still in plenty of different ways, whether you, again, do multiple containers or multiple bowls, or you freeze and make the food into tiny little meatballs, and then you can, plop those out in the yard, have the dog detail to find those. Um, you can do dehydrated meats as a supplement to raw feeding. So we love Real Meat here, or Ziwi Peak. Those are great brands of dehydrated food that you can serve that are totally going to complement, a raw protocol. You could chuck that out, have them find everything, and then serve them their raw food in the crate or outside, however you do it. Um, I mean, it's not rocket science. It's just about what works for you and thinking outside the box to elevate this activity rather than boring in a bowl. The dog horks it down. It's a bunch of carbohydrate. They're jacked up like they've just had sugar, have all this energy, and they have nowhere to put it because you're not challenging them and giving them an outlet. You see, is why there's just a massive value, especially with puppies. Puppies, when they're hunting, you're helping to influence their emotional association with things too. So if they're using their nose, they're actually thinking and they're not shut down. If we have an insecure dog, we want them using their nose. We want them hunting and seeking as we create things that stress them, sounds and sights and experiences around them that they might want to avoid, but they're hungry, they're motivated to find that food. You're going to counter condition. You're going to change how they feel about something much faster, much more effectively if you utilize activities like this in the context of that stress and that exposure. So this is another really terrific solution for nervous, insecure, fearful dogs. Don't let them go hide in a corner and recoil into the crate where they feel safer and eat their food in the back there. Pull them out into the world and let them use that hunger drive to propel them towards the things they're unsure about, and reward them for facing their fears, by having that resource out around and amongst the source of their stress. Okay. Um, awesome. I think we are at time. So hopefully good stuff for today. And be safe, you guys. I don't want to put anybody in a situation where, this is a great idea and we threw all the food down and we got in a big dog fight. That's not what we want. If you've got bad dogs, you've got, serious long-standing issues, don't dive in the deep end, please. Be responsible. Think about this carefully before you do it. If you have multiple dogs and one's kind of, historically been a real big problem, maybe muzzle them. They can still eat through a Baskerville muzzle, but they can't do a bunch of damage to another dog. That's going to be a trainer approach, 10 out of 10. No reason not to use a tool that'll help keep everyone safe. So you have alternatives. You don't need to go crazy here trying to do this without safety in mind, without some control. We can use leashes and long lines. We can use, separators and different things and have the dog still get the benefit of having this migration and resources out and, working our way up to them being totally free and included with one another. You can back tie a long line to your fence. So one dog has half the yard radius and then you keep the other one on a leash and kind of work around and in and out. This is how we build our comfort level as dog trainers a lot of times over the years is we got to put all these safety mechanisms in place and then we slowly take them away as we feel like we can read the room. We understand the energy and the dynamic of the dogs. We know that everybody seems really relaxed and groovy and they're getting it, and there's no real tension or issue. But it's been a lot of years, a lot of experiences for me, a lot of time listening to and shadowing other trainers and getting a sense of what is the core motivation of using this activity for which dogs is it particularly ideal. And I'm certainly do not have one of those packs of 20 dogs that are doing this on a regular basis, but we do see street dogs tend to have the best clarity about dog to dog behavior because they're having to learn to hunt and share. And, if you are nasty and top dog and you tell other dog off or you scar them up a little bit, they respect that. They're not going to continue to mess around. And sometimes it takes, one or two good experiences of being firmly corrected and pushed out of the pack, so to speak, for a strong puppy to respect and recognize that wasn't worth it. I'm not gonna bother with that anymore. So when you understand that, I think it does build more confidence as to how far, like Jessica's question, how far do I let this play out? I really do trust dogs to know better than we do. I really do trust dogs. There are absolutely some exceptions to dogs that are nasty, severe resource guarding is a different thing. We're not talking about that. There are absolutely dogs that are red zone aggressive dogs. They're few and far between. We're not talking about that. We're talking about the fact that, in the dog's natural dynamic, when they're unencumbered by human emotional and psychological, um, uh, what's the word I'm looking for? Projections. Is that the right word, buddy? Projections. They know better. They do better. They correct more firmly and effectively right away. They match the choice of the puppy in particular and with the right intensity of correction. And puppies can take a hell of a lot more than most of you dog owners recognize and are willing to, deliver to your puppy. They can take a lot more. It's partly why I'm so wiped out in my career after all these years, and physically the toll that it's taken on my shoulders and my joints, my hands, because I know instinctually, watching mama dogs correct, watching good, wise, balanced dogs correct other dogs, that the intensity with which you need to respond to something that is inappropriate, disrespectful, super rude, or even dangerous that a puppy is doing is oftentimes just way up here, and as an owner, they're just you're delayed, you hesitate, you overthink, you second guess, you're emotional. I tell people all the time in my circle, my close circle, it's like, correct my puppy, kick her. She's jumping on you. Like you've got to give her a good boot with your knee or your foot, and really claim that space. And I'll watch him just sort of, it's like she comes right back for more. Going, there is a something to be said for watching dogs, really let it rip and recognizing that it's a lot more fair if the correction is firm and clarifying than if it's naggy and continuous and you have to go over and over and over and over again. Is it weird that I'm more worried about Luna getting hurt and not the puppy? It's not weird. It doesn't surprise me. It's not weird. It doesn't surprise me. And, that is a legitimate issue you are bracing for because of the length of delay and how large that dog is, how large your puppy is. I mentioned it before, right? Like it's not how I would do it in terms of matching her with another dog in the home. I would not have gotten a giant breed dog. Place. You shifting, buddy? Good boy. It's almost your turn, pal. They're going to be here soon. Yeah, it's legitimately not how I would have done it if I had my way, but it is what it is. It's what you've got. So you need to be there to back her up just in case because he is so big. He's already too big. It's not ideal. He should have gotten his ass kicked by her, in my opinion, day 1, 2, 3, 4. And that's the scenario in which you're going to have the best impression on a puppy from her size to his size and how much he's going to outmuscle her long term. So if you came in late, guys, we're talking about a Great Dane and a long and low cattle dog mix that, they're just like this. So it's going to be fine. You're going to figure it out. It's not a bad puppy and you're enrolling in training right away or getting remote collar on board. You're going to have the tools that you need to deal with it. But, as far as the question coming through on the chicken style feeding, I think we're clear. Don't do it with multiple dogs out at the same time because you already have the energy behind it of insecurity, uncertainty, all this stuff. We don't want that. We don't want that in the mix. We can't have that. That's not what works to clarify for the dogs that there's plenty to go around. Don't fuck around. Be polite to each other. Sharing is caring. Okay. All right, guys, I gotta go. It is time for me to get ready. Winston is doing an awesome job down here on place. And it's time for him to start his first go home session with his peeps. So thanks so much for hanging out with me today, guys. Appreciate you as always, providing content for us to chat about. I know other people are helped even if they're lurking and they never say so. So appreciate you sharing your question, Jessica, and allowing us to talk about it on the broadcast and invite other people into a little bit more confidence and clarity about how they can resolve some of these issues. If you would like more information about stuff like this or, puppy raising stuff, you can find us in the subscription group Raising a Rockstar. I think April dropped the link. Otherwise, feel free to send me your questions over email for Fix It Friday any other time. I'm off after this weekend for a little bit, so we may have a delay again in our show, but we'll take a look at the calendar and see what we've got. I think there's nothing this coming Friday, but then the week after we're back. All right? You betcha. See you guys. Take care.